This is the regularly scheduled meeting. Board of Fire Commissioners. Date is Tuesday, October 1st, 2019, and it's 9 a.m.
Let the record reflect Commissioners Ibarra, Glazier, Hada, Nimberg, and Woods-Graham present, and we have a quorum. Madam President.
Thank you. Flag salute, moment of silence.
Please join me in a moment of silence in honor of past and present members of the Los Angeles Fire Department who devoted their lives to the protection of our community. Thank you.
So we begin with Commissioner comments.
Oh, good morning. I'd like to, somewhere along the way, a promotional ceremony was slipped in place, and I didn't calendar it. But I want to congratulate all of the people who were promoted. That was wonderful. I think I recognized some of the names on the list, so that was good. It's always good to see people moving up. I can't think of any real fire stuff, but I understand that the independent assessor does a weekly report, and I would like to get a copy because I would like to be informed as to what she's doing also. So I don't know, but I'm sure the rest of the commissioners would be open to that too. And that's it for me.
Yes, the last commission meeting was the 3rd, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a while ago.
Given the fact that we didn't have a commission meeting on the 17th, I guess the 9/11 event was followed the last commission meeting, and a number of us were there. And as always, a great event. And as always, I always appreciate Chief Terrazas and his comments. And then I did attend the badge promotion ceremony, and once again, it's been a great event, and the fact that we keep having these events, I think is important.
Absolutely. I agree. And Chief, thank you, and thank you for sharing your story about the firefighter you went with to 9/11. I believe it was really powerful, and illustrates why we need to continue to have these memorials. So thank you for that. And it was great to see all the different agencies there as well. I was fortunate to go to the promotional badge ceremony. It was great. Congratulations to all of those who promoted. No chiefs, but next time, probably. And Girls Camp was really fantastic this year, this summer was really great and inspiring. And what was really great about this particular camp was that it started off with kind of lower numbers, but the second day it increased. So we lost none of the young girls, and we actually increased and graduated more young girls, and it was really inspiring. It's really inspiring to see a lot of female firefighters from all over coming in to help volunteer. So it was really great. Thanks.
Okay, good. Moving on to report of the fire chief.
Thank you, Madam President. On September 5th, I had the opportunity to attend a press conference announcing the reopening of the Olive View helipad. That was a combined effort with Supervisor Barger from the county. And that helipad's in the northern end of the San Fernando Valley. It was damaged many years ago at a major brush fire. In light of all the recent large-scale brush fires we've had, it was a great opportunity to fix and repair that. Now, if we needed to, we could have 3 simultaneous water filling operations on that helipad. On September 11th, we did have our annual 9/11 ceremony. It was well attended by area fire departments. I believe we had over 20 fire departments represented in multiple law enforcement agencies. This is the 18th anniversary of 9/11, and we're approaching the 20 year, so it's getting bigger every year. I did share a story. I went back to New York in May of this year with 4 captains from our in-service training, and I was escorted to the 9/11 memorial by 2 New York firefighters. And I realized one of them, Matt, he was on the job when 9/11 occurred. He'd never been there, and he lives in New York. He couldn't bring himself to come see the names of his fellow firefighters in the memorial. But after we'd visited and he saw how they were treated with respect, I really thought it was therapeutic for him, and I wanted to share that story this year back in LA. So thank you to Matt and that experience. On September 26th, we did have our promotional badge presentation. We believe it's about our 18th one. I think we're close to figuring out how to do it, 18 times. We had about 31 promotees, 6 different ranks. Great event. It's for family and friends. It's not so much for the promotee, it's for the family and friends who supported the promotee. We've never had before, we started doing this 5 years ago, we didn't have a ceremony to recognize somebody's accomplishment of their objective. Like myself and many others with my time on the job, we came home after a 24-hour shift wearing shorts and a T-shirt with our gym bag. And the day before we were a firefighter, but that day we were captain. So there really was no crossing of the goal line. I think that's what it does for us to have that ceremony. It's a milestone in the career of our people. And then this past weekend, I was in Sacramento for the annual firefighter memorial ceremony. We had one member's name go up on the memorial wall. That was Cecil Morris. Cecil was a captain too at 75s. He retired, and then within the first year, he came down with cancer, and he eventually died from that disease. And that's another thing to motivate us to ensure everyone goes home, not only after every shift, but after you retire. You should have a long and healthy retirement. That's why I'm very proud of the actions we've taken and will take to ensure our people are decontaminated on scene so they can take a shower if necessary, so they are not exposed to those contaminants, as well as many other elements of the Everyone Goes Home campaign. And that concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you. Moving on to verbal report of the department on significant incidents from September 3rd to September 30th.
Good morning, Commissioners, Madam President, Chief Terrazas, City Attorney Isela. My name is Trevor Richmond, Deputy Chief, Operations Valley Bureau. On September 28th, Saturday, Battalion 15 was dispatched to a reported structure fire in the Granada Hills area. They found a one-story, approximately 1,600 square foot single-family home well involved with fire. They were also faced the challenge of excessive storage on the outside of the building, which made laddering difficult. As the fire attack companies tried to make interior attack, they found excessive storage throughout the residence. Unfortunately, before the knockdown, they did locate someone inside the home that had been deceased. It was about a 4 minute and 15-second response time from the station to the incident. It took approximately 50 minutes for the knockdown. On a better note, we had MySafe LA come out afterwards, immediately after the incident, and canvass that neighborhood, and they installed 26 smoke detectors and 8 carbon monoxide detectors. That completes my report.
Thank you. Moving on to a report from, another one.
One more. Good morning, Madam Commissioner,
Morning.
Commissioners, Fire Chief Terrazas. My name is Phil Flegel, Deputy Chief, Operations Central Bureau. Wanted to talk to you this morning about a major emergency structure fire that occurred on Monday, September 9th, 2019 at 12:09 a.m. On that morning, Los Angeles Fire Department responded to a reported structure fire in Fire Station 17's first and located on the industrial east side of Los Angeles. First arriving LAFD resources found approximately a mid-block, one-story commercial textile occupancy with fire showing through the roof. First firefighting companies and battalion chief commander that got on scene rapidly developed situation awareness, developed incident objectives, and deployed an incident action plan to mitigate the fire. Companies initiated an offensive attack at first, but due to the volume of fire and the incident, the incident commander quickly transitioned to a defensive strategy coordinated with exposure protection to adjacent occupancies. Firefighters used heavy stream appliances and large hand lines to suppress the stubborn fire, which was fed by large quantities of baled textiles and loose textiles. Over 186 firefighters and paramedics responded to the incident to support the resources, and other support resources were there to bring the major emergency structure fire under control within 3 hours. Thanks to the efforts and coordination of the firefighters on scene, the blaze was confined to only the occupancy of origin, and neither businesses adjacent to the occupancy were damaged. In fact, both occupancies were open for business that same morning. There were no civilian injuries. However, there were 3 minor firefighter injuries, and all 3 members were transported to local area hospitals and released that same morning. The specific cause of the fire is still under investigation by the LAFD Arson Counterterrorism Section, and that's it for that incident. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now report by the medical director for the same time period, September 3rd to September 30th.
Good morning, Commissioners, Madam President, Chief Terrazas, City Attorney. Good morning, Isela. Ellsworth Fortman, Assistant Chief, Emergency Medical Services Bureau. A couple incidents to talk about this morning. One was on September 3rd. We had a 48-year-old male LAPD SWAT officer working out at the police academy. While working out, the officer went into cardiac arrest. LAPD officers on scene utilized their AEDs and initiated CPR. Ironically, the first 2 LAFD resources on scene were AP-82 and AD-15. They found the officer with, he did have pulses at that point, although he was unresponsive, moist skins. They immediately began transport, brought him to the hospital, and he actually ended up walking out of that hospital just a few days later, so really good save on that. And then on September 21st, we had a 42-year-old male at Los Angeles International Airport complaining of chest pain. We had Cycle Team 251 arrive within just a very short time, 1 to 2 minutes, which was 5 minutes ahead of the nearest paramedic rescue. The patient's EKG revealed he was having a STEMI, and his heart rate was 36, blood pressure of 84/60. The Cycle Team initiated all the treatment and were able to load the patient right into the rescue for immediate transport to the hospital. Patient went straight into the cath lab, went into cardiac arrest in the cath lab, although since then he was shocked. He's recovered and made a full recovery. So a couple good incidents there.
Great.
Any
Thank
questions?
you so much.
Thank you.
We have a presentation? We do, right?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Fire Chief Terrazas, Ms. Radfish with the City Attorney, Ms. Inez. I am a firefighter David Ortiz with the Community Service Unit, Public Information Officer. Today we are here to honor members from Fire Station 61 and members of the Metropolitan Fire Communications Division. And this is for their excellent patient care assisting a person in cardiac arrest. I would like to invite up to the podium to be publicly recognized Captain Ricky Crawford, Captain Arturo Tarango, Engineer Clark Hills, Firefighter Fiat Lee, Firefighter Paramedic Jose Veliz, Firefighter 911 Dispatcher Pablo Flores. I'd like to also mention the members that could not be here: Apparatus Operator Ryan Carlos, Firefighter Paramedic Christopher Hughes, and Firefighter Lawrence Newberry III. On the morning of June 10th, 2019, at 8:45 in the morning, Light Force 61, Paramedic Rescue Ambulance 61 were dispatched to a reported seizure near the intersections of Fairfax and Wilshire, and if you're familiar with the area, in front of the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. There was a reported jogger down of unknown age having a seizure. While en route, resources were updated and told that this seizure patient was in cardiac arrest and that there was bystanders doing hands-only CPR. When they arrived on scene, that is in fact what they found. They found 2 civilians doing hands-only CPR very effectively on this patient. Without missing a beat, Life Force and Rescue 61 transitioned uninterrupted CPR and began their patient care, doing CPR for this person and beginning ventilations for this individual who could not breathe for themselves. They also used their defibrillator to shock this person 3 times because their heart was ineffective. Rendering advanced life-saving drugs, they were able to obtain within 10 minutes of their arrival a return of spontaneous circulation. And what ROSC is a resumption of sustained perfusing cardiac activity associated with significant respiratory effort after cardiac arrest. Due to the privacy restrictions of federal law, we are not allowed to identify the individual, but we are happy to report that only 5 days later, this person was released from the hospital. It is noteworthy to mention that bystander CPR, doing hands-only CPR, is key prior to paramedic arrival. And that is why the Los Angeles Fire Department encourages everyone to learn hands-only CPR. I will now read one of the certificates. In recognition and sincere gratitude for your heroic courage, diligent efforts, personal initiative, and expedient assistance which directly resulted in saving a man's life during a cardiac arrest emergency on June 10, 2019 at the 5800 block of Wilshire Boulevard in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles Fire Department commends you for your extraordinary life-saving efforts to a citizen of the city of Los Angeles. Presented this first day of October 2019, Ralph M. Terrazas, Fire Chief.
Well, here's another example of the chain of survival working. And it started when the person called 911. And actually before that, when you think about it, somebody had the knowledge to do hands-only CPR and started CPR. This was a jogger on the sidewalk, and somebody had that knowledge and started it. And then somebody else, may have been the same person, we don't know, dialed 911. And then that started our people en route. And the local station is Fire Station 61. And then en route to what they thought was a seizure, it turned into cardiac arrest. And that was communicated to the companies before they got on scene, which saves valuable time. Once you get on scene, you confirm the patient's condition, and you can immediately start into doing your assessment and then getting the patient ready for a shock if necessary. This is another example of showing that system works. And our people don't like to take credit for it, and many times they don't want to be recognized. But I think it's important that we do that the public hears these stories and understands that our system in Los Angeles is a very good one. I would say it's an excellent one, including not only suppression things, but emergency medical services. So I want to join with the group in recognizing the outstanding efforts of the members of Fire Station 61 and the dispatcher who is critical to this call. With that, I'd like to turn over to Captain from 61s. Cap, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, Fire Commissioners, Madam President, City Attorney, Ms. Iniguez. These fine gentlemen that I had the pleasure of working with actually performs at a very high standard, as we know. Part of this situation that happened that day is we had a mixed crew that day, but we had people that was working from different stations. We had a captain who decided to take a position on the rescue ambulance that day and work as a paramedic. And it shows that no matter where you're from on the LAFD, when the situation arises, we're all going to come together and perform at a very high level. They actually just sprung right into action, kept themselves very calm and cool-headed, and really made my job easy that day. And so I wanted them to be recognized because they're the ones that actually makes the LAFD look great. So thank you.
Thank you. Great. So now we're at the consent agenda items.
If I could like to hear a little more about I, which is the Justice Security Strategies report, and also L, which is the Net Kinetics report.
Okay.
Otherwise, move to adopt the recommendation for items 4A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, J, K, and M.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
So let's take the first one of those then as 4I is report by the department on the agreement with Justice and Security Strategies for an as-needed date validation and analysis consulting services pursuant to the request for proposal 2019-030040.
Good morning, Drew Steinberg, Fire Stat Manager. This is a request to have a ongoing data validation third-party consultant. We are working again. We went through an RFP process this time around, and we selected Justice Security Strategies yet again for our analysis. Any questions?
Sure. So we've been working with them for 6 years now?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So is the ongoing consultancy really just around, is the primary goals, what is the primary goal, sort of to continue to have a contractor on this?
So ensuring anytime that we have new metrics that we're working on or any data that we're putting out forward-facing, whether to the public, we want to make sure that we are having a third-party validator, that it's not solely just the department that's putting this information forward.
Okay. Is he and are they still consulting on the development of FireStat, or is that all pretty well set? And
the development of FireStat is well set. Anytime that we discuss having new metrics for other sections or bureaus within the department, we do work with JSS to ensure that we're making sure that what we're analyzing are metrics that would be effective and valuable for the department as well.
Got it. And for JSS, what other fire departments do they work with?
I am not aware of other departments off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look into that.
Do they actually work with any other fire departments, or is it because my sense was they work primarily with police departments?
They work with various public sector agencies. I know that within the city of Los Angeles, they have a contract with the city attorney's office, with Los Angeles Police Department, with ourselves, and with the mayor's office. As far as agencies outside of the city of LA, I'm not aware of what their contracts are off the top of my head. Okay.
Was that part of the evaluation criteria? Was whether they worked with other fire departments?
Part of the evaluation criteria was how they worked with us in terms of doing data validation, in terms of understanding what it means to look at metrics, as well as making sure to understand when we're looking at data sets and ensuring that there is other methods that can be looked at besides just one methodology for statistics.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I remember having some past conversations with them, and it seemed like they did a lot of application of law enforcement related approaches to some of the fire service stuff that we were doing, which that's why I asked if that was a criteria within the RFP. Is it? I think we do have some unique aspects to how we look at things around here within the fire service. So that's why I was curious whether or not that was a consideration.
The consideration, we looked across of basically who works with data is basically what we are looking at. So we had 3 responders, and JSS was the best of the responders that came to us.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a long-standing contract, though, right?
Yes. So we had a contract with them, and so then we basically
dating back to how long?
2013 was the original contract, and so then we went out for RFP just this time around. So this will be a new contract with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And they come out of Maryland?
No, they're actually now based out of the city of Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. That was my question. But his rep is based in Maryland.
He has offices across the country, but he is now the main point of contact is now based out of the city of Los Angeles.
Uh-huh. Okay. All right. I'd be interested to see a little more about how they just what the criteria was that we were asking for on some of this stuff. Maybe that's something we could review sometime in the near future.
Are you going to pull this?
No. So for now, we'll let I'll let it go for now. But I would be interested just to talk more about what the criteria is for how we look at something like this.
Sure.
So if
we can move it
because
ahead.
It's a contracting issue.
Yeah.
If you want to review these in more detail, it needs to be done in commission. So you're approving it, right?
Correct. So if I want to understand what the criteria is that was created, then that has to be reviewed in commission. Is that right, Counselor?
It should be.
Okay. So the RFP should be submitted through.
The RFP isn't required to be, but if a commissioner has an interest in learning more about the criteria that were utilized, it's usually best to have that discussion in open session, so that there is no actual or perceived
Oh, I see.
conflicts issue.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Then maybe we could take a look at that.
So I would make the request just because this is an ongoing contract and we do have projects that are in need of data validation, and their existing contract ends at the end of October, and we need this to go through the process in order to start a contract with them in November and not have a gap in our analysis. I would request that we are able to move forward with this item.
I would recommend that as well, that we move forward with it. Any further questions you have, we can agendize it.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
What's the time period for the contract?
The contract is set up for a 3-year contract.
So we wouldn't be reviewing it for 3 years. Can it be for less
And-
time?
Well, it's also a long-standing contract.
Correct.
From 2013.
Correct.
So.
Yeah. Okay. Like I said, that's. I'm interested in understanding how we create contracts around this stuff, particularly fire stat in particular. So, like I said, we can proceed with it for now, and then I'd be interested to see how we source for this. Just because I do think that this is, I know it's a unique system that we have, but I think it also is one that I'd be interested to understand how we find people to help us with it, and whether or not we are creating the criteria in the right way that gives us the most bang for the buck. 'Cause it's not a lot of money relative to the size of our budget, but it's still, it's money we're spending. So, I'll let it proceed as it is, and then we can look at it more in the next, sometime in the next 3 to 6 months.
Great. Thank you.
Can't the presentation be made on the process at another time?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, that's what I asked for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll agendize it. Yeah.
Right. Because even though it's a long-standing contract, there can be problems with long-standing contracts, as I've had some in the past, because of the fact that they weren't located in L.A. or they didn't hire the right people or something was going on with the contract. So, but I understand that this is a long-standing contract, but I'm just saying they're not without question. Because they're long-standing.
But the department is usually the one that does the day-to-day interactions, and they're in the best position to identify if there is a problem. So we need to rely on them to come to us to do that, because commissioners are not in a good position to do that. We don't oversee contracts.
Yeah.
My point is that there could still be a problem that a commissioner could have identified that even though it's a long-standing contract. I still make that point. That is my point. But I'm supportive of this particular position, this contract. But I heard things that I just need to comment on that not have nothing to really do with us approving this contract. Right. And I'm so happy that they've moved to L.A. because that was my question, and you helped me. Thank you, because that's a concern of mine.
Okay.
Okay. So move to adopt the recommendation for this item, item I.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So 4L is report by the department on the agreement with Kinetics for software development services pursuant to the request for proposal 2018-03004.
Good morning, Madam President,
Good
Commissioners,
morning.
Fire Chief, Scott Porter, Chief Information Officer, Information Technology Bureau.
Yes. Hey, just a quick question on this. Happy to see this moving forward. What do you think the time frame is on the actual execution on that, or are you unable to comment?
No, I can comment.
Yeah.
In an ideal world, it's like 18 months.
From start to execution? Or
from the
going
time
live?
we actually have a signed contract to us beginning the replacement of NSS.
Mm-hmm.
That's optimistic. We're building a new system. We're taking 30 years of very convoluted, very complicated business rules and trying to make those all stay kind of in place but make the system better. The contract is a 3-year contract, so we're giving ourselves time, but we're not going to try to make this, do it unnecessarily fast, but also try not to take our time with it, right? We have a lot of risk, as you all know. This is probably one of our highest risk systems, so there's a lot of motivation to replace it. Also, I think to your timeline question, one of the objectives of this particular project is to shed off or move out of NSS things that really belong in other systems.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, in parallel to NSS going on, we have a human capital management project going on, so things will be going in there. Our training records will be reorganized. So a lot of things are happening kind of in parallel. So right now, before the project starts, an optimistic view is 18 months. A pessimistic view is we have the contract for 3 years, and something happens where we can do incredible things. It could be a year.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing to keep in mind is until we actually start development work, which will be sometime this calendar year, I think before the end of the year we'll really be starting the development work. We're not going to know how long the development piece really takes until we start getting some cycles in there. But you have to remember, too, the department's ability to absorb this change. There's a huge change management component that's going to go with this. We could develop great software in 6 months. I mean, magic could happen, and we could say, hey, this thing was so much easier. We're 6 months in. That doesn't mean the department could absorb this change, right? Just think about every single member, every single day touches NSS. So we haven't even really started to actually plan. I mean, I don't want to say we haven't thought about it. We've thought about it, but the actual plan of what's the change management effort? How will members react? How will we train them? How will we bring this in? So I think that's got to go along with this. So we're thinking about that very early on in the project. So that's a long way of saying optimistic is 18 months. We have 3 years, arguably.
Yeah.
But I think that in my next report, my regular reports to Commission, this will be one where we can give you a really good update about how we're doing and the progress we're making.
Yeah, that's great. Is this one of our largest system replacements then going on at this point?
Well, we have this. We have fire inspection. That's going to go out to RFP next month, hopefully. All things go well. We have 8 responses for our EPCR replacement, another application that almost every member touches every day. So I wouldn't say it's the largest, but it's pretty darn significant in terms of the impact to the department.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you have to teach everybody how to get off of DOS, so it's going to be be a challenge.
Some members have to be taught what DOS is.
That's right.
Some members were born after DOS.
That's right. That's true.
Right. They skipped the whole PC and went right to their phone. So we're
got
sort
it.
of
Okay. Well, it's exciting to see this moving forward. I know it's been a long time coming. I understand the vagaries of a major IT implementation. So I get that you don't know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know until you get there. So it sounds like though you've got a handle on what you need to do.
Look, we're going to do this like anything else. It's going to be iterative. We have sort of these 3-week development cycles. We learn something in every cycle, and then we try to adjust the schedule based on that. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. So I'm pleased to hear you'll give us the updates in your sort of quarterly updates. Looking forward to see what happens with this.
Great.
Thank you.
Any others?
Thank you.
Yeah.
My question for you is, where is this company located?
That particular company is actually located in Wisconsin.
They don't have any LA offices?
They don't. They're a small company. We had 11 bids, and because this is a software development project, it's not like a product where we're buying something off the shelf. We really had to find a company that was used to developing custom software. This is, every project is new and different to them, and we were looking for certain skills where they could work with our developers. So this project's organized in a way where they do the majority of the design and development work, but we have our own developers that work for us that are part of that team. And doing software development remotely is a fairly common practice. We talk on the phone even before contract. We've been talking with this vendor almost every day. We have regularly scheduled meetings. We have ways of collaborating. All the source code for the software is on-prem here. It's all maintained here. So, you know, they're basically using our systems, our source code repository, but their developers are there.
And this is a new contract?
It's a new contract, yes, ma'am.
And they are the best at what they do in this field.
Of the response,
that's why we couldn't find anybody in California.
Yeah, of the responses that we got, you know, I mean, I can go into the details of all the firms. We did get one local firm that scored very high, but they pulled their proposal out midway through the evaluation. Most of the other firms were located out of state. So, you know, that was one of our evaluation criteria. And if they are out of state, we like to think about how can we work with them? You know, how can we make that work? But it's very common these days to work with development firms that are not located in the same state or time zone as you are. It's kind of a common practice now.
I understand. I just have an interest in local dollars going to local
I'm with you. Absolutely. I totally get it. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But I understand there may be times, but that also shows us where we have a weakness in the state. We really need to have these companies getting on board, people developing these products and that we can use, because we can't hire them if they're not here.
Well, for what it's worth, it's not. LA is not the easiest city to do business in. So if you have any influence on that, I think that would be helpful too.
Oh, would that make it better? Oh my goodness, that's terrible. Okay.
Just one person's opinion.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not the companies that are not available, it's LA. Okay.
It's part of it is part. I mean, to be honest, myself and the general manager at ITA, the fire chief, and I, we have this conversation a lot. I think the city attorney and ITA general manager are actually trying to make it easier for software in particular companies to do business in the city. It's a very high bar to get over to be able to contract in the city, and a lot of the best companies they don't want to do it. So we're working on ways to improve that, to your point, to get more local interest.
If I could add a comment on this.
Yeah, I appreciate the information.
I recall, and I think many of the command staff recall the transition before we had network staffing, and that was cards and a pencil in the front office of every fire station. And when we went from that to network staffing, it was a huge leap. And there really wasn't any thought given to change management and how we should do it. Scott has brought that level of expertise. We have to do this methodically, carefully, take baby steps, tell our people how we're doing it, why we're doing it. And I'm very confident that this is going to be successful. Scott has communicated to me how he derived at the decision to go with this company, and I'm very optimistic about the product that will be developed.
And I appreciate the fact that you take into consideration whether or not it's local or statewide, because that's a very important thing. And I think it's a part of the city charter or something. But it is important, and I really appreciate the fact that you take that in consideration and the improvements in the station, because when I first started as a commissioner, they had archaic processes. So that's been and that hasn't been that long ago. So that's appreciated also.
Didn't they switch from cards to network staffing in like the early 70s? No.
I believe it was the late 90s.
Oh, 90s. Oh,
early
okay.
70s. I would have been in elementary school.
Well, you know, I don't know your life. Move to adopt the recommendation for item L.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So our first regular agenda item is report by the department on the fiscal year 2020-2021 proposed budget.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Emilio Rodriguez with the Administrative Services Bureau. The department's proposed budget is crafted around the mayor's continuing priority of ensuring that our communities are the safest in the nation, as well as the department's strategic plan goals toward exceptional emergency service, a healthy work environment, community sustainability, and optimizing technological resources in the field. In the backdrop of pending labor agreements and citywide budget constraints, the budget identifies only the most critical departmental needs in order to continue providing the highest level of public safety. The department's focus, as shown in the budget requests itemizing attachments of the report before you, is on funding 3 new recruit training classes, including 2 classes for 130 recruits in the Valley, Drill Tower 81. That would be 130 recruits, and 1 class in the Harbor Drill Tower 40 for 50 recruits. So a total of 180 recruits. Page 2 of the cover letter only mentioned 2 classes, but correction is 3, and it's appropriately noted in the attachment summary. The additional class at the Harbor will help address a surge in drop retirements that are expected by July 2020. A second budget highlight is adding staffing resources for plan check support of the Bridge Homes housing initiatives, Coupa program management, and fire alerting and safety systems regulation for compliance. Enhancing brush fire support with supervisory staffing for the Wildland Field Management Program, providing brush clearance administrative support, and continuation of sworn overtime for mutual aid deployments, which is reimbursable. Other major requests include field equipment and technology needs to ensure firefighter and public safety, including critical field equipment such as compliant helmets and automated, continuing the replacement cycle for automated external defibrillators, which started last year. Funding for turnout protective gear replacements, which must be systematically replaced to reduce the risk of injury, and turnout maintenance to better align with MFPA standards, and which also supports the department's Everyone Goes Home initiative, which the chief had reference to earlier. MICLA fleet replacement program to maintain a replacement cycle for apparatus and field vehicles. We have about $26 million requested for that this year. And technology funding to maintain broadband capabilities in the field. This is essentially to increase the funding for the cell phone service, the mobile data plans that have increased over the years. Collectively, the department's budget requests amount to $740 million, which includes the department's operating budget and non-departmental components. The estimated operating budget is just over $700 million. However, this does not account for pending sworn labor agreements, which is expected to have a substantial fiscal impact. Non-departmental requests include, again, the MICLA fleet replacement program, capital improvement expenditure program funding of $1 million for health and safety facilities improvements. We had $600,000 funded in the current year for that, so we're requesting continuation for that to address broader range of facilities. And various unappropriated balance requests, which are contingent on, for the most part, reimbursement potential, and which would require a report back to council. Recommendations before you request that the board approve the list of proposed budget requests with any modifications as desired by the members. Authorize the department to prepare all necessary documents and return with the final proposed budget, which currently anticipating for the November 19th commission meeting, just prior to the November 2nd submission date for the mayor and CO's office. That concludes the presentation, and welcome any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Thanks.
Move to adopt the recommendation for item 5A.
All in favor? Oh,
Aye.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So moving on to the report by Operations Central Bureau on the 2018 annual report.
Good morning once again.
Good morning.
Philip Flegel, Deputy Chief of Operations Central Bureau. This morning I'd like to present to you the 2018 Operations Central Bureau annual report, which provides a snapshot of how OCB has implemented specific strategies to meet or exceed the Fire Chief's 2018-2020 strategic plan. I'm going to try to slow down so I don't talk so fast here. Let me grab that. Thank you. Okay, that's the end. Anybody have any questions? All right. Cap, you set me up here. Okay, I'll just keep moving on here. So, of course, with any good plan, you got to have some objectives to accomplish your goals. And the broad objectives of OCB in 2018 were to provide OCB members with the direction for actions that will shape and guide them through support of the department's vision, mission, and core values. Provide effective leadership and strong management processes to focus on continually monitoring and evaluation of OCB actions to meet the goals of the strategic plan. And finally, to monitor, modify, and implement strategies to improve OCB operations for the next 3 to 5 years based on performance metrics. And that's in front of you. Killing me. There you go. Got it. So those are the objectives I just read to you there. So these objectives were developed from Mayor Garcetti's Back to Basics Priority Outcomes and the goals from the Fire Chief's 2018-2020 A Safer City 2.0 strategic plan. These metrics identified the need for administrative and operational changes to provide better customer service and better safety for our members. One significant 2018 accomplishment was the redeployment of engines 1 and 20 in OCB and also engines 73 and 75 in OVB. Through fire stat analysis, the Fire Chief's vision, and the Fire Commission, these critical resources were redeployed in July of 2018 after being closed in 2011. Again, this redeployment of engines satisfied the Fire Chief's strategic goal number 1 of providing exceptional public safety and emergency services, and also suffice strategies 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So talking about some numbers here, some of the OCB goals were to require the using of FireStat process to analyze Power BI data to develop some strategies to develop succeed in our goals. One of the goals in OCB in 2018 was to provide and maintain an average immediate EMS dispatch turnout times of less than 60 seconds. This would further assist the Fire Chief's strategic plan and goal number 1 of providing that exceptional customer service. 2018 OCB resources responded to the challenge and increased their average immediate dispatch turnout times to 60 seconds or less, which is basically a 24% positive increase from 2015. As a side note, these stations continue to maintain that same average for all of 2018 and continue to do that in 2019. As far as court times. Unfortunately, in 2018, we saw little improvement in regards to the composite operational response times in our Bureau. As you can see, the times pretty much remain the same as they did before in 2015. We put some analysis to it, and the downtown area pointed to 3 challenges that we had there. Basically, an increasing population and congestion, and increased amount of residential units being occupied in the downtown area. Also, the modification of roadways, removing traffic lanes on some main thoroughfares also hindered our court time. Also, heavy construction itself, closing down lanes, also hindered our response times. Our analysis on the east side applied to the apples and oranges theory that we came up with, and basically the narrow streets, the time of day, contributing factors of those 2 things mixed together added to, depending on the type of runs that we had, contributed to what the court time was for that specific time. So depending on what hill you went up to or what street you were on, kind of depended on your court time for that specific response. We also looked at cross-end responses that didn't notice a significant change in some of the districts, such as 9's First Den. Some of the value that FR9 and the APRUs have given to us have given that cutout or that cross-end time have reduced a little bit in 9's First Den. Some of the solutions that we're implementing to try to overcome these challenges with court times was basically the same thing that's always applied to us, getting out of court as fast as we can. Knowing your district well, the apparatus operators and engineers and paramedics and firefighters know their district well, and that has to do a lot with the construction things that are happening in your district, the time of day, and things that normally we didn't know before. And how we do that now is what a lot of firefighters use is those applications in our iPhones or our cell phones to sometimes navigate through those areas. A lot of times we've seen firefighters in the back of the fire engines, the captains tell us they'll actually have their application open and advise of certain hazards that are happening. So that's a real-time mapping solution that works sometimes. Also, map drills and avoiding some of those bike lane highways we have in some of our districts have really caused us to go different routes so we don't have more lanes that we can get around, so we don't have to go through the bike line areas such as Broadway and also 7th Street. And finally, there's some technologies we've been talking about in the ITB as far as some other equipment that could be used by the fire department, hopefully soon, that will assist us with changing lights maybe to get us through intersections and through different areas a lot faster. So that's the court information. One other thing that we did to improve our response times was have some tools for officers to use to audit station better and to provide leadership. And with the collaboration of the Fire Stats section, we created a Power BI dashboard to assist our officers with analyzing data daily, and that's something you have in front of you right now. It may be a little bit hard to see. But basically, this allows the station commander or officer to immediately identify trends or outliers that need to be addressed. The Power BI information are facts about our performance. And my expectation is for officers to analyze this report daily, identify trends, and develop solutions that can be solved, that can solve the problems that were identified. And basically what that is a snapshot right there of a certain fire station district. Obviously, 9's right there. It has all their apparatus that are on there, their turnout times, how many responses they had for the day, how many transports they had, what kind of incidents they had. So the station commander, the battalion chief, can basically look at that the following shift and identify kind of some trends or anything that's happening that maybe need to be addressed in the previous shift. It also helps us out with our fire stat inspection as a reference for them to look back upon. So when we have our inspections, they can reference those items. The next item we want to talk about is the use of some of our metrics we use in our fire stat to improve some of our goals and help with the fire chief strategic plan. The first thing is EPCR compliance. That helps out with revenue and litigation that we have, and our daily audits have 90% compliance and making sure all of our EPCRs are done. Also, our in-first compliance that has to do with data and budget as well. Our monthly audits we have in our office have 95% compliance rate, and company-based fire prevention compliance as well. It has to do a lot with public safety, making sure that gets done. And again, for the fourth consistent year, we've got 100% compliance with all of our company-based fire prevention in all of our districts in the Central Bureau. OCB is also achieves the strategic plan goal number 2 of embracing healthy and safety productive work environment by a couple other things we have listed here in member training. Our target solution compliance has to do with firefighter safety. Consistent and frequent training contributes to firefighter proficiency and also enhances our safety. We've gotten that whittled down from 2017 to 2018 to 61% improvement, and even this year we're even down to single digits, so that's a pretty good improvement. We continue to strive for that. Also, our sworn member evaluations, we have a tool to utilize for that to make sure that gets done. It gives employee satisfaction and also a way for us to manage their performance. We've whittled that down and have a good percentage in returns on that as well. Also, our traffic accident analysis, we continue to analyze that. Unfortunately, our traffic accidents went up in 2018. And again, we're focusing on our EVOC training coming up in 2019 to help us hopefully solve that and get some more education on board for our people so we can avoid some of these accidents and traffic occurrences that we have. And finally, on this slide, too, we have a firefighter injury analysis that we started in 2019 of analyzing all the injuries that we have in our Bureau so we can let our members know how these are happening, why they're happening, maybe put some corrections so they don't happen again in the future. And we've already noticed that a lot of gurney incidents as far as people lifting things, exercise incidents of people maybe possibly not working out or warming up before they do work out are some things that we can address and get corrected before it actually happens again. So those are some things that are already happening. Okay, moving on to strategic plan goal number 4 is how we're combating that is through some of our other initiatives that we have going on in sustainability and community resistance and community resilience. Is achieved through our public safety advisory committee we have, our neighborhood councils, and our OCB shareholder communications that we have. In 2015, we established our OCB Public Safety Advisory Committee. That purpose of that was to meet with all of our community members and shareholders to discuss local threats and vulnerabilities with the community. We also have these quarterly meetings to discuss current state of the LAFD, current topics and plans for preparedness, mitigation, response, and recovery after disasters. Also to strengthen our community relationships, OCB battalion commanders attend and speak at all of our 26 neighborhood council meetings within OCB. And finally, we sponsored an LAFD OCB public safety breakfast last year to further forge our relationships, identify certain trends in training and to common goals within our Bureau. So some sustainability and community resiliency also, further achieving this goal. We collaborate with MySafeLA, the American Red Cross, and the LAFD Community Risk Reduction Unit to further help out with things that are happening in our community and address those actions that need to be addressed with our community. We've worked with the American Red Cross, MySafeLA, and conducted assessments, identify specific target hazards, and provided disaster preparedness and training to the community. And we've done several of those contacts and outreach throughout the year of 2018. To give you an idea of some of the metrics for MySafeLA that we had in 2018, we installed 468 smoke alarms, 17 carbon monoxide alarms were installed, 650 high school members are taught in hands-only CPR, and we had 2 fire fatalities in 2018. As of note, we had no fire fatalities in 2017, and as of right now in 2019, we've had none in our bureau at all, so we'll knock on wood on that. Okay, finally, working on some of our other things we're doing for opportunities and professional growth and professional development. And again, just to satisfy strategic plan goal number 5 is all OCB officers are consistently trained and reminded of the LAFD's operational risk management policy to minimize risk and emergency incidents. We regularly conduct quarterly command training to all Central Bureau chief officers and command teams with a focus on Mayday events or firefighter emergencies. We also have all assistant chief officers in 2018 were provided with 4 of these training sessions throughout of 2018. 4 of these individual training sessions in 2018. Also in 2018, all OCB captains were provided with size-up training to hone their basic skills on company officer basics. We also hold monthly staff meetings with all chief officer command teams and EMS captains to ensure that our current department information and new policies are discussed and understood. And also, we also discuss any significant emergency incidents to make sure we share and improve upon our service delivery and firefighter safety. So some of our future goals that we have is, again, to meet or exceed the firefighter strategic plan benchmarks, provide exceptional public safety emergency services delivery by continuing to improve our efficiency, and finally, to continue and foster relationships with city partners and civic organizations through consistent engagement. Finally, I just wanted to say that I would like to thank my civilian and sworn staff for assisting me in our daily mission support with OCB. Without them, I wouldn't be standing up here today explaining to you all these important things. They do a fantastic job, and it's always told you surround yourself with good people, good things happen. I have outstanding people that I surround myself with, so it's been a very good adventure so far. Are there any questions I can ask for or answer for you?
Well, this is great. Thank you so much it's very thorough. I actually have a question for the chief. And I don't know, is your injury analysis, is that just Central Bureau, or do all of the bureaus do that analysis?
I think all the bureaus are starting to do that now. Yeah, we've I think as the years have gone on, we're digging down a lot of those things that I listed there. We're all starting to do the same thing. We're, again, what's keeping our firefighters safe and how can we prevent things from happening in the future. So I think we're all taking a look at that or doing our fire stat analysis now.
Great.
What I like to see is in our Monday meetings, everybody briefs on the preceding week's activities. And occasionally one of the GEO bureaus brings up something unique to their bureau. And if it's successful, we immediately start thinking about how do we expand it to the other GEO bureaus. I believe this started that way. The traffic accident analysis started that way. There's a lot of those things that, due to the initiative of that particular GEO bureau, if it works, we want to spread it department-wide.
Right. So this has been implemented in all of the bureaus, or it is? You guys are shaking your hand. You're like, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, it's just what the fire chief said.
All 4 of them. Okay, excellent. I mean, do you have the data for this?
I do, yes. And again, it's going with HIPAA and everything else. It's kind of whittled down to, is it an incident injury? Is it a exercise type injury? Often not non-incident related, incident related, and then specific action of what happened and kind of why, without getting too into somebody's personal information.
Absolutely. Just looking at numbers, does the department have the numbers?
We are collecting data throughout the department, And we actually have a pilot program that was funded through the Innovation Commission over at Hodgkins, and it's the wellness unit. So this ties into it as well. Our work comp costs are very expensive. We're trying something new in addition to what Chief Legal explained. The wellness piece will try to address those injuries that don't require first care. Maybe our members can get by and start their rehabilitation through treatment that can be given at Hodgkin. And if that works, we'd like to expand that as well. Right now, that's focused at Hodgkin, our drill tower, and I believe battalions 1, 2, and 11.
Okay. Cool. It'd be great to get. Can we get that report?
Sure, we can. We'll have the focal point be the wellness pilot program, and we'll collect data throughout the bureaus as a part of that report.
Great.
Just to point out, Commissioner Nimberg's had a report pending since 2015 on it was a workers' compensation audit report, which sounds like it hasn't gotten something you do anymore. So maybe this is something that could get subbed in so that we could actually start to see what the injury trends look like.
Well,
the overall
we did
trend
have a workers' comp report
in 2014.
Right. It'd be great to get that again.
No, that was it was after she joined the commission, so it was 2016, 2017, something like that. We had a report.
Yeah, but I don't think we got what she was looking for, which was exactly this point of what's going on with her injury. So I think it's great that you brought it up, and it sounds like you're doing some good work there. It would be great. I agree with Commissioner Nimberg. It'd be great for us to see that as a just see what the overall trends look like there, because that to your point, the workers' compensation and all that stuff is important.
Right.
Thank you for bringing that up. And I don't know if this was a Central Bureau initiative or not.
He said, yeah.
But
I think it's collaborative.
Collaborative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean,
good.
you know,
Yeah.
you guys are great, but this was awesome.
Yeah, that's good. Congratulations on a good initiative.
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Fire department tradition is to take credit for
That's
it.
right. Now you have
And
to buy.
Chief Legal is being humble.
That's right. Now he has to buy ice cream for everybody or something.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Excellent initiative, Chief Legal.
Yeah. Well done.
We are going to give you credit for
And
it.
good job overall. Thank you.
Yes.
Don't go anywhere.
Did you have something? Commissioner?
I just wanted to know if Commissioner Glazer was asking for all of the bureaus, not just Central. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for the report.
You're welcome.
I appreciate the analysis on the court time. So I also appreciated your thoughts on some of the solutions. So on the crossovers, I just want to just dig in a little bit on some of the things you said there. So you mentioned getting out of quarters is one thing, but getting out of quarters has improved, but that hasn't actually seen that doesn't actually trickle into the court times, right?
Seems like it. No.
Yeah.
No, it does not.
So which is interesting, right? Because the as a focus of us, turnout time. I understand why turnout time is important. Obviously, people need to get out of the station, right? But I think you make it makes the point that that's no longer sufficient for us to kind of. It's necessary, but not sufficient for us to be thinking about how we're providing service to the public. So, I appreciate you having both the data points in there because I think that is interesting. Knowing the district and the map drills, were those things that you started recently, or is that something you've been doing for a while?
I think that's been around since Chief DeRozas has been on the job. I think is trying to be funny.
So early steps.
That's something we've always done. It just makes us better at what we do, and that's I think we got away from that for a while. We sort of implemented that again, and you sit around the table, after lineup, say, okay, we got to go to First and Hope. How are we going to get there at 3:00 in the afternoon? By the way, there's construction on Hope and Grand.
Yeah.
So then thinks about it, get the map out, guys talk about it, and that gets everybody's mind thinking about how to get to a certain point. We've had acronyms forever. When I was an engineer, it's like you had a certain way of how you remember certain streets so you can get there faster. So all those little things are getting passed down. And like I said, there are a newer generation with the applications. It's kind of a competition now. The guys will be talking about getting a map out and doing it, and the guys have already got on their ways and figured it out and what the best way is to go. And like I said, in the jump seat, some of the captains have been telling me the guys are directing the engineers and AOs, hey, we should not go this way because there's a faster route. And sometimes that works. So anyways, we're using some different ways of getting there more expediently. So
yeah. And then and so that's sort of the tech aspect you talked about there was how using tech to try to
correct.
And then the FRVs and the crossovers. Tell me a little bit more about that and what that you see the impact of the FRV.
With them jumping calls like they do and having them available on 9s first in at certain times, they are just jumping calls faster and getting them. So now it frees 9s up, obviously, to get on more calls. We didn't have that in the past. The same thing with the APRU. It doesn't come up this direction so often, but sometimes when it is around, it does give us some extra help as well. Sober unit as well, that's kind of helped out with kind of mitigating a little bit that the call has to be so basically we're using those resources to distill what needs to have certain types of resources and what levels that it has helped out with not having 10s come into 9s first in because these other resources are already there. Also with having Rescue 900, it's a variable staff rescue staffed pretty consistently all the time in the daytime or the evening hours. That's helped us out quite a bit as well. Sometimes we've spoken with emergency operations and we do flex some of our variable staff rescues in certain days when we have heat emergencies or holidays or there's going to be a significant need for resources. That's helped us out as well in that corridor between Fire Station 9, Fire Station 13, and Fire Station 11. So those are some of the things that I think have been helping out with minimizing the crossovers that we've had in the past.
When you minimize crossovers, what's the impact on court time? Does that improve the court time then, or you see no difference, or hard to say?
I really didn't analyze that, sir. So I would hope it would help, but I really didn't know. I didn't look at that.
Okay. So part of the reason why I've asked for the court time and continue to ask for is because I think I think these are the beginnings of the kind of conversations that should be happening within each bureau and also department-wide to be thinking about what's going to make the difference, because the problems that you highlighted of traffic and construction and population, that's only going to get that's not going to get better. That only gets worse. And so if the only lever we've got is turnout time, you pretty well demonstrated here, and this is not a judgment-filled demonstration, right? It just kind of is what it is, right? That turnout time isn't going to be the lever that's going to change much, or at all, actually, how fast we get from the front of the fire station to the incident. And so, if that's the case, then I want to encourage everybody to continue to think in the ways that you're starting to think about this, of what are other things we can think about here to try to solve this problem of the actual response time. And you're only showing the immediate dispatch, which is a good place to start, right? Because that's, in theory, our most intense incidents. But if we're trending in the wrong direction there, right? And I'm not suggesting that's the fault of our people going more slowly, right? But it is a circumstance that we are facing that we have to start to think more creatively about how to address, whether that is crossovers. And I would encourage you to look at crossovers to see how that impacts your court time, because that's going to be a question on resource deployment. And we've got a budget cycle coming up with 130 firefighters hopefully going through a tower that hopefully we'll be able to think very strategically about what we do with them, but also about other things that maybe we haven't even thought about before. Of is there pre-deployments we should be doing? If the FRV is making the difference, right? Maybe instead of 4 FRVs, we should be looking at 10 FRVs across. But this is the new day that I think that requires the thinking. So I would love to keep the conversation going, and maybe that's a separately agendized item for us, as the counselor is blinking furiously at me. I would welcome the opportunity to hear more about what the thinking is on this in an appropriately agendized item that maybe involves the bureau chiefs and others. But this is the conversation we need to be having of what happens over the next 10 years and how do we get there. That can't just be what we did before, because clearly that's not enough. So anyway, I'm curious your thoughts on all of that, and I welcome the data you provided here, so thank you.
Welcome, and just to touch on that, it's way out of my lane, but like Scott Porter with the ITB, he's talked about in the past about as far as, we just talked about it yesterday actually, is that there's a mechanism that's being tested again about as far as like changing the traffic lights. And that's something that he's, looking into. We've had that in the technology in the past, but we're to a new age of technology that's going to help us probably do that better. So that's one part of it. MDCs, we're going to get new MDCs that have tracking inside of them, that have mapping that's going to say, by the way, if you got to get to A to B, like the Waze application, it's going to tell the engineer and apparatus operator this is the way you need to go. So those things are out there. I know Scott's looking at them already, and those are some of the things that the technology is, we just haven't grasped it yet, but we're already looking at those things. So I know that's in the future for us.
Yeah, just remember, tech only gets us so far.
Yeah, agreed.
At some point, there's going to have to be some actual changes to our operational model and how we do things, and that time is now. So we can think about how to agendize that item appropriately. But I do think that's an important conversation that I'm happy to see getting started here and finishing here. So thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
No, I mean, that's the standards of cover, correct?
In part.
Part of it.
Part of it, yeah. So, I mean, that's happening now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a separate.
I mean, that's separate and that.
But related.
Right, but it can come back to commission when it's.
Right.
That's in the RFP process, correct? I know it's
Right.
off topic, sorry, Julie.
Which again, because it's a contract,
Right.
again, it would need to be agendized if we want to talk about it.
Yeah. So as we have other bureaus coming, I look forward to hearing what your thoughts are on this particular issue as well, and what you see within your bureaus that could affect your core time. Thanks.
Great, thank you. And we'll figure out what particular issue we'll agendize. for
Okay.
this
Madam
meeting.
President, I'd like to have a comment too.
Sure.
Specific to this agenda item, excellent,
Returning
excellent, excellent presentation. The whole goal of the strategic plan was to be in alignment with Mayor Garcetti's Back to Basics.
Mm-hmm.
So by accomplishing our goals, we're accomplishing his goals. And each bureau has developed their presentation, if you notice, highlighting goals in our plan and the metrics that go along with them. So I just want to highlight the fact that we are a metric-driven organization. We use it to set our goals, and we compare ourselves to that goal, how we're doing, and what creative ways can we use to achieve that goal. Also related to this agenda topic is the court time. And I heard a lot of good discussions because it affects us citywide. One thing that we're we're actually moving forward is telemedicine. By reducing call load, we'll have a reduction in incident collisions, making our resources available. And I think that's going to have a big impact in the future. Our goal is to get that operational sometime early next year. And with that, I won't say any more because Julie's giving me the evil eye.
You're right.
All right, let's move to adopt the recommendation. This is just a receive and file.
It's just
verbal, so we don't need to do anything. Very good. Thank you.
And we have no public comments today.
Madam President.
Yes.
No, wait, public comment.
Commissioner.
Through the president to the city attorney, can I ask for an item to be agendized? Yes. Okay. Just recently, we had a report. It was in the media on television about elevators and high rises and all kind of reasons, but many elevators are out of compliance. I'd like to have a report on what's going on with the elevators, why they're out of compliance, and about the high rises of the buildings they're in. Are they also inspected?
Okay.
Okay.
That was a request.
Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Good one.
All right. So,
I move to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.